Senate Subcommittee of Appropriations on Education, Youth, and of Higher Ed, and all associated agencies. I want to wish all of y'all a happy Valentine's Day. I see some people have some like red on today, and I'll assure you that we're all going to show each other love today. If you don't, it's not going to last long. I want to call on Senator Hickman to have our invocation this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. Oh, gracious Heavenly Father, what a great day you give us, Lord. The sun is so bright and shining, Lord. We feel the heat from the Lord, but we know sometimes, Heavenly Father, that our boats feel like they're full of water, Lord. But you always provide us with buckets to dip the water out, and we thank you for that, Lord. We just ask you to give us the guidance, wisdom, Lord, to represent and do the good for the people of Georgia. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
In order to, in consideration of the majority of the people's time, we have several agencies that have very little in the budget. We're going to move through them first so you can go about your daily work. We will do Education and Youth, Higher Ed, and TCSG last. First agency, sorry. You're my friends, but that's where you fall on the agenda. If your name started with an A, you'd be first. First agency we're going to call on under Section 22 is Early Care and Learning. Amy Jacobs, good to see you this morning, Amy.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. Members
Can
of
everybody
the committee
hear? How's it? Can you speak in that
Yes.
mic?
Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
Great. Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. We do have just a few changes, and you will find us on page 1 under Child Care Services. The first change is 120.1. And this is the increase of $5,000 for the COLA. The House added $49,884 to account for the full cost of this pay increase. Specifically, this amount just includes money for about 69 of our employees who are partially funded with state general funds. So this is really just a true up from the governor's recommendation.
Okay.
The next is page 3 under the pre-kindergarten program, 122.1. Again, this is the $5,000 cost of living increase for our pre-K program, and it's the governor's rec of $409,802,000. The next item is 122.2, and this is language that the House added for us to utilize our CRRSA and our ARPA federal COVID relief funds to provide 2 one-time salary supplements of $1,000 each to our pre-K teachers and assistant teachers, and this is in line with what the governor proposed for our K-12 teachers, so we will provide them with 2 $1,000 bonuses, and they're just recognizing this here.
Let me interrupt you here and say, in interest of time, we don't have but an hour. Let's, as we go through this, if there is a change in the House and the governor's budget, if you would cover those, if there's no material change between the two, or if there's an issue that you'd like to address, feel free to do that, but you don't have to do every line item in the budget, just the ones that there may be discrepancies between the House and the governor's office, and your thoughts on it, what the rationale behind it are.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And then we only have one more, and it is language that the House added, asking us to utilize existing funds to expand our summer transition program to address learning loss. No additional funding, just allowing us to use some existing funds at the end of the year to hopefully increase our summer transition program like we did last year. But no issue with that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Do we have any questions on that? Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming. Next is Ers Employee Retirement System. If you would state your name for the record and also the page and line item that you're going to be starting on. Give us just a second to get there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Jim Potvin, Executive Director of the Employees Retirement System. We are Section 25. Line item begins 157.1.
Do they have the same tracking document? What page? It's on page 29 of our tracking document. Okay, so it's the bottom of the page on page 29 of our tracking document. Go ahead.
I'd just like to start by saying thank you to the senators, the members of the committee, for your support on Friday of Senate Bill 343, which was carried to the floor by Senator Huffstetler. So I appreciate your support on that one. Other than that, there are no changes between the governor's and House recommendations, so I'll answer any questions that the committee may have.
Any questions? Thank you for coming. Have a great day.
Thank you, too.
We 29. 20. Pardon? Mine's got a little bit more. I'm gonna give y'all the tracking document that you're. Okay. Next, organization, Georgia Professional Standards Commission, Mr. Matt Arthur.
Good morning. Hope
Hang on
everyone's
just a
doing
minute.
good. Senator
All right,
Walker, how you
hang on.
doing? Good.
Hang on a minute, let's all get on the same page.
Okay. I've got pages 25 and 26, line 170.1, 170.
What page is mine, on mine? I've got different page numbers than they have. Actually, mine's longer because I have in there all the toys for all the good boys and girls. Man, it takes more pages. Okay, PSC.
Yes, sir. There were no changes between the House and the governor. We appreciate the changes that were made, the additions, but there's nothing between the House and the governor.
Any comments you'd like to make on it?
I'll tell you, at the bottom, you'll see the money that was put in last year about the military troops, and that's been tremendous for us. We've met with over 700 individuals, and that's military and spouses. But the bottom line is we filled over 240 teaching positions with the military and their spouses, and we look to expand that this year. We've got people at, I think, 4 right now, military bases, and we're expanding that. And so that has worked out really well for us, the troops, the teachers, and we work with the federal government too, but without the state money, we couldn't do what we do. So thank you very much.
Any questions? Thank you so much, Matt.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Next is Governor's Office of Student Achievement.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. Joy Hawkins with Governor's Office of Student Achievement. There are no changes between the governor's recommendations and the House.
Okay.
I do want to just add, thank you for your support for our programs and initiatives over the years, really making a difference.
Yes, sir. What number are you? 8?
Yeah, number 8.
171.1, sorry.
Yes. What does that mean, the mansion allowance shall be $60,000?
I'm sorry, where are you?
Because it's a governor's office program. So that doesn't actually pertain to governor's office of student achievement. That's
It's 171.1.
Yeah, I was just asking about that. Thank you.
Good. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Georgia Commission on the Holocaust. I realize this is under the university system. Was that presentation going to be made by a different person doing the general presentation for university system? Pardon? Is anyone here from the Holocaust? If not, okay, we'll
I will speak for anybody.
that's fine. If you have anything to add. Okay, good deal. Want to make sure.
Sorry, I'm also entertainment this morning.
Georgia Military College. What page numbers have we got in both tracking documents? Pardon?
Page 41 for
Page 41 in your documents, which page is that?
49.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
I'm General Caldwell. I'm the president of Georgia Military College.
Thank you.
On page 41, as you said, if on 286.1, there was no change. The one that we were appreciative of the House adding was 286.3. That was the one-time salary adjustment for full-time benefit-eligible state employees. We have 424 in the junior college. The funding that we originally provided took care of about 27 of them. The add here will do about another 43. That still leaves us a delta of about 355 full-time benefit-eligible state employees who do not receive any federal funding or any outside additional funding for their salaries. That's an approximate $2 million expense that we would ask for this committee to please consider. The other item which we had talked to the House about was the 2 austerity cuts that we took in the amended FY20. It was right around 160,000, and in the FY21 it was about 228,000 for a total of 388,000 that we had asked to be reconsidered to put back into our budget. And those are the only 2 things, sir, for the junior college.
On the austerity, are you talking about refunding the remainder in the FY21 budget, or are you talking about making up for any cuts that were in the 20 budget?
So there was a 4% reduction that was, we get about 4 or 5% of our funding from the state of Georgia to operate the junior college, and that's it.
But you're talking about the restoration of the 4%.
Correct, yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
And then the next, in the FY21, it was a 6%. The grand total of those 2 was about 388,000
Okay.
that we had asked to have reconsidered to put back in. And then again, the other 355 state employees who are full-time benefit eligible that receive no federal funding or any other outside funding for their salaries for the 5,000 bonus increase or pay increase that the governor talked about.
Any questions?
I have a few, Mr. Chairman.
5.
5, yes, sir. Morning, General. How you doing?
Morning, sir.
How many total employees do you have,
Sir, we
full-time?
full-time, there's about 540. But there's a group of them that work in the preparatory school, so I did not include them in that number, the K through 12 program.
And the 355 Delta cost how much
Sir, it'd be approximately $2 million.
in the supplemental, or is that annual?
Sure, that'd be annual.
How many campuses do you have, General?
Sir, we had 13. Last time I was here, we're down to 12, and we're about to go down to 11. What we started doing when the pandemic hit, sir. We started a reduction and realignment as we found that the number of in-seat college students had been going down during this time period. So we reassigned, right now at this point, we've done a 24% force reduction. So from 18 months ago to today, I've let 24% of our full-time state benefit eligible employees go. We don't have them anymore. And what we're left with today now is 424. Obviously, we had an additional 25% over that just 18 months ago. So we've been, as we've seen the in-seat numbers, drop, we've gone and made the commensurate cuts in both faculty and staff to align with that. Moving more back into Milledgeville. We've consolidated a lot of our functions. They really are just, I'd hesitate to call them campuses as much as satellites out there, because really the primary functions are all coming back to Milledgeville now. And it's a presence out there that enables those who want to take advantage of junior college education to be able to obtain it, but not a full-up type campus operation.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So of your satellite campuses, how many do you have that are active now, and how many were active this time last year?
Sir, this time last year we had 13. Today we have 12. We just announced Friday we're going down to 11. Our one that we had in Sandersville will close down the campus location this summer. And then we have 2 more. We need to talk to the local officials before we do, but there's 2 more we're going to bring down also, sir.
If you would, get me some information on where they are, the enrollments in each one of those campuses, and the cost of operation of each one of those satellite campuses.
All right, sir. Absolutely, sir. Do that.
Mr. Leader, for what are you, 13? Pardon?
If you could add one more to your list of stuff that the general's given you, broadband footprint in the areas that are being shut down, you can understand where I'm going with
I
that.
understand.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions?
And sir, for the preparatory school, the K through 12, no change. That was page 41 and on to 42, but there's no changes there, sir.
How's your enrollment running in the preparatory schools?
Sir, we have waiting lists in every grade.
Okay.
Probably 30 kids that would, if we had the ability to accommodate it, that would, we have parents that have paid a $500 deposit so that if there's an opening in the school, they want to put them into the K through 12.
And that's all at the Milledgeville.
Yes, sir, 100% just in Milledgeville. And again, that's a pretty high-performing academic program that has a heavy focus on the liberal arts and on leadership. Every student wears a uniform, starting in kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. It's a different kind of uniform, K through 5, and then in 6th grade we switched to a military uniform. And those students all wear military uniforms and follow through with military protocol, formations, and everything else. Down in the K through 5, morning Pledge of Allegiance with the students, and we teach them all the values of duty on our country, starting in kindergarten through 5th grade, and then in 6th grade, move it outside and start with the morning raising of the flag and inspections of the students and go from there.
If they misbehave, do you make them do KP?
Sir, they do, it's called bull ring, and we take away their personal time in the afternoon through some other activities.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is the K through 12, the prep school, are y'all participating with GHSA for athletics or GISA or?
Sir, GHSA.
How's that going?
Sir, this past year, we had our first winning football season in many, many years. In fact, they did superbly, but the rest of the sports go great, sir. We normally will, our real, if you look at what we're really good at, literary, fine arts, one-act play, cross-country, soccer, football's never really been a strength of ours. We have a program called Raiders that takes place at the same time. Mixed teams, boys and girls, that compete across the United States of America against other military junior ROTC programs. It's all military skills that they compete in. And we'll normally win the state of Georgia and place in the top 5 in the nation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, General.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next is Georgia Public Telecommunications Commission. Now that's dedication.
You bet, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Walked to school in the snow, too.
Tell me what pages we're on.
42, I believe. Mr. Chairman, I'm Taya Ryan. I'm the Executive Director of Georgia Public Broadcasting. Happy to be here and always thank you for your support. The budget number 288.5 is where the change is from the governor's budget to the House. This is increased funds for one-time salary adjustment to provide parity for all the full-time benefit-eligible state employees. So that is the one change that we have. We also have budget number 288.6, which is extremely important. We had been lobbying the FCC for a number of years for another radio station. This is in southeast Georgia, the St. Mary's, Brunswick, Waycross corner of the state. Because we are the state's emergency alert system through our radio stations, this is a part of the state where our radio signals were weak, and we've been lobbying the FCC for this radio station, and we got granted it, which is a really terrific thing, because that completes our ability for all of South Georgia to be alerted to particularly hurricanes and any other disasters. So the House put in the funds to get the tower up and running. So that's what the 193,450 is. The third one, budget number 288.7, the DOE has required new computer science standards starting in kindergarten. And all of you know that we do terrific work in educating digital education for kids. They've have been working closely with us to create a computer science education digital project. That's what the House put this money in for. It's very exciting. We have actually done the first module ourselves. We don't have money to finish the project, but we proved the project to DOE, and I think you'll see in some of the ancillary materials provided, they're very pleased and very excited about this project. So it's just those three that are the changes from the governor's budget.
Who's developing those programs?
We are. So we do it in-house because we have the skilled folks that do that now. We've done, this will be about our 5th one that we will have done. The last one we did was called Lights, Camera, Budget, and it was about personal finance, that DOE had new standards. This is all a response to new standards required by the teachers in Georgia to help them at this young age. They may have never known how to teach computer science, and this helps the teachers as well as the students in these younger grades.
Does the state own the copyrights or patents to all of this?
We own the copyright to them. We don't own a patent on them, sir.
I didn't know which would be applicable to that, either a copy or a patent right with this.
Well,
state.
because we created all, the state owns all of this. State has rights to all of it and owns all of it.
Okay, so the employees of the state that develop it do not have the legal right to it?
No, sir.
Thank you.
The state does.
Anybody else got a question?
Thank you for your support. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. No, I don't think so. Go ahead. All right. Georgia Student Finance Commission. What line? 51, okay. Should be the next line item in your document. Good morning, Ms. Riley.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Lynn Riley, President of the Georgia Student Finance Commission. We have just a few changes from the governor's recommendation. On page 44, 308.1, dual enrollment, the House reduced our continuation budget by $3.4 million to meet the projected need in the dual enrollment program. In engineering scholarship, 309.1, also on page 44, the House added $111,300 to meet the demand in the engineering scholarship. The third item is on page 51, under service cancelable loans, line 321.1. The House added $10 million to increase funds to provide for service cancelable loans for Georgia students who enroll in degree programs in behavioral health professions. And that, Mr. Chairman, are the changes for our budget, and I'm more than happy to answer questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Thank you so much. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Mr.
your
Chairman.
time. Non-public Post-Secondary Education Commission. Mr. Kirk Shook.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Kirk Shook, Executive Director of the Non-Public Post-Secondary Education Commission. We're on page 52, line item 323.1. There are no changes between the House and the governor's budget recommendations, but we appreciate your support on this, and I'll take any questions you might have.
Any questions? Hearing none, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kirk. Teacher Retirement System.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm Laura Lanier. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of the Teachers Retirement System. We have one item for the committee's consideration. It's line 324.1. I'm not sure what page that is in your packet. But actually, we had no changes between the governor's recommendation and the House. So with that, I'll be glad to take any questions that you have.
Any questions? Y'all need a minute? I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your
Thank you,
time.
Mr. Chairman.
Just for clarification, I mean, to make it easier without having to switch back and forth through the documents, because TCSG comes next in our documents, I'm going to call on them at this time. Technical colleges. Mr. Greg Dozier.
Mr. Chairman, committee, thank you for having me today. We're in section 46 of your document. On mine, it's page 54. I'm not sure if that's the same page number as yours. As you flip there, Mr. Chairman, I can go by each section, but we just have one change that affects each section in our budget or each program, and that is the inclusion of all the full-time positions, the adjustment to the pay raise for the $5,000. That amount, as you look through all the sections and add them up, is just over $9.9 million. I'd be happy to go through each section if you so choose, but that's the only difference in the governor's and the House recommendation. Just for clarity, Mr. Chairman, the first change that I'm speaking of is under adult education, 326.2. That amount is 606,000. You'll see that change in each of the programs, and it adds up to the $9.9 million for the full funding. Would you like for me to go each section, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next section is 327.100. That's departmental administration. The one change under that between the House and the Governor is 328.2 for $654,797, and it's again the parity for all full-time positions. The next item is 329.1 under the Governor's Office of Workforce Development for $171,725. It is also the parity adjustment for all full-time benefit eligible employees.
And that was a House ad. That was not in the governor's budget.
Yes, sir. That's correct. The next change that is different from the governor is under technical education. It is the last item in our budget, and that's 331.8. And that change is $8,497,115 for the parity adjustment for the full-time benefit eligible employees. So as I stated, as you look through each of those programs, the only change from the governor's rec is the increase for the parity for the full-time benefit employees. The largest is in technical ed for $8.4 million. But if you add each of those up, just to give you an idea of the total change, it's $9.9 million.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarity, that $5,000 is an ongoing top on the salary, not a bonus. It's an ongoing increase in the salary. So obviously, the $5,000, we also have an increase in other benefits that go along with that.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate the
Chairman.
fine work y'all do.
Thank you, committee.
All right, we will go back to Department of Education.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Russ Grome. I'm the Chief Financial Officer with the Department of Education. Before I get started, I was just going to say that similar to Mr. Dozier, we have throughout all our programs, we have the $5,000 parity for our federal and other funded employees. It's about $1 million across our agency.
You would pause just a minute.
Yes, sir.
Let me make sure. What pages is it on everybody else?
Page 4, I think. On ours, it's 4.
Page 4 in your document. Okay.
All right. Yeah, as I said, across our budget, you'll note that we had the $5,000 for federal and other funds for pretty much in all of our programs. So you'll see it's small adjustments which add up to approximately $1 million across our agency. In section 133.4, a change in the House version from the governor's recommendations is to provide funds for agricultural education equipment and facilities of about $4.3 million. This is in lieu of bond funds. In our central office, that's the agency recruitment. In our curriculum, 138.3, you'll see reflect a delayed implementation date for our rural coding funding program.
Hang on just a second. That's good. Okay.
138.3.
These numbers move pretty quickly, and it takes a while to get there. So if y'all aren't there when he starts talking, just speak up, and we'll pause a minute. We're on line 138.3. Anybody there? Okay.
Okay, yeah, this is a decrease of about 240,000, reflecting, we just didn't get the participation from the districts. In non-QBE, 143.2.
Okay.
We've got a decrease of about $41,602. This is just to recognize our residential treatment facility program manager. Her start date was later on. She didn't start at the beginning of the year, so that's just an adjustment of her salary and benefits. In pupil transportation, 146.3.
Let me go back. The 144.1. There was a difference in the governor's and the House budget, if you would address that.
Yes, in 144.1, we had an increase of funds to provide one-time salary supplement for 1,000 of all nutrition workers. This was basically a calculation we ran. We had some better reports at the time when the House was doing their analysis, and it caused an increase of approximately
About 200 more.
200, or about 2 million more.
If you would address 144.2.
144.2. 144.2 is an increase for the one-time salary adjustment to provide parity for all our full-time state employees that are benefit eligible, which are funded by federal and state funds, similar to our other programs in the budget.
Okay. It says it's funded by federal and other funds. What are the other funds that are used?
We've got some virtual school employees and other funds. We've got
State Charter Commissions.
State Charter Commission. We may have some non-federal grants. I think we may have, they're funding maybe 1 or 2 employees, but that would be the other funds. It's not very, mostly it's the virtual schools.
Okay. Go ahead. Do you know, what was the item that you had called before? Which line item?
146.3.
Okay.
This is to provide funds to incentivize school systems to purchase alternative fuel buses. And this one's approximately $5 million. In our quality basic education local 5 mil share, 147.2. This is to increase the local 5 mil share to the statutorily required cap on the FY 2022 local 5 mil. As we'll talk about later in our QBE formula, we had an increase in the funds going out, which allowed us to actually remove the cap on local 5 mil. So the formula is actually running as intended in law. There's no 20% cap on it this year for the amended budget.
If you would explain what the removal of the cap actually entails.
So basically the increase of about, does it go up about $12 million is an increase in the amount the local districts have to contribute towards QBE in order to participate in the QBE earnings program. Districts have to apply a millage rate and support with local dollars. And now the law does state that there's a 20% cap on it. And with the austerity cuts, the last couple of years we've had to enforce that cap, and the districts didn't have to contribute as much. So with now full funding austerity and the increase that I'll later talk about with the custodians bonus, salary supplement, it will now remove the cap.
Okay. We had a question on 12, Senator Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, and thank you for your appearance. 133.4, increased funds for agricultural, education, equipment, and facilities. Would you give me an example of what these funds or what the funds just one example of what the funds can be spent for?
One example, it could be for renovations or new buildings within our Ag Edge program. It could be a renovation to some of our camps. We've got several camps throughout the state that are state operated. That could be for a new building. We submitted, these funds are in lieu of bond funds, so typically we would get these through a bond package with a request that we submit.
Schools would apply for them, or?
The Ag Ed program would apply. They would apply through our Ag Ed program to get these funds to support their ag programs.
I have many in Southwest Georgia. That's why I'm asking. So, a greenhouse, for example,
I'd have to check. I don't know if a greenhouse is on that bond list.
Let's check and see.
I do know my son has one.
We're not talking about a huge one. We're just talking about one of the ag programs. But I'll check. And another question was, because I serve such a rural population, 138.3 says we're going to reduce the funds to reflect a delayed implementation for rural coding program. Explanation for the delay?
I don't think, well, basically, I believe this is was a ad in our budget for a program, and our curriculum folks have put the program out there for the districts to apply.
Okay.
We have not had any takers.
Nobody applied?
I think we had one district apply, so it's looking like we may have to, that's why the recommended cut is.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Senator Hickman.
Yes, and just one quick question. On the 146.3 about incentivized schools at the first alternative fuel.
Yes, sir.
In this case, what is alternative fuel? Is that just all electric buses, or is that propane buses or what? So the electric bus that was here during the 2021 session was about $300,000 per bus, as opposed to $100,000.
Yeah, it's propane. I believe the term is natural gas or electric. And basically part of our rubric, it provides funding of about half the difference in cost from a regular school bus. So the difference in cost from, say, a propane bus and a diesel fuel bus, we would provide about 50% of that based on our Department of Administrative Services contract amounts for these. The electric, looks like the reimbursement amounts for electric bus is about $100,000 currently. 100,000 for an electric bus. So, for example, a propane bus, we would reimburse a district about $7,500. There's a difference between a diesel cost and a propane cost bus. For the electric cost, we would reimburse about $100,000, which would be about half. So I guess in the math, it'd be about $280,000 for an electric bus, approximately. Yes, sir.
Has anybody addressed in this discussion of this the difference in the cost per mile between diesel buses and propane buses, and also engine life, and comparing the cost of acquisition?
I can
about
check.
The different type engines?
I have not seen that study, but I can ask our facilities group, Pat Schofield, and see if we've got anything, we've done any analysis on that. So age and mileage.
Pardon?
Age of the different types.
Three things. Number one, difference in the cost of the purchase, or the purchase price between diesel engines and propane engines. The cost per mile of operation, I realize that's going to have a lot to do with the fluctuating cost of fuel, different fuel types. But thirdly, the engine life that you expect between the buses. It's my understanding that propane buses have a longer life than gasoline engines, but not as long a life as diesel engines. Now, I may be wrong, but I think that's what I've heard in the past. I think it would be interesting to see that analysis before we start subsidizing a particular type engine. Does it really give you a return on investment? Any other questions? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. I believe we did look 5 mil, so our next material change is on 149.10 within QBE. And this is to increase funds to provide the one-time salary supplement of $1,000 to all custodians. It's approximately $8,492,509. And our last material change is in the CTAE program, 154.4. And this is to provide funds to purchase equipment for construction industry and certification.
Tell me which line item that is again.
154.4.
Okay.
And this is $2.6 million to support Georgia's vital skilled trades pipeline and distribute needed equipment funding to local school systems through our Connect Act, through the Connect Act. And that is all the material changes that I had from the governor's recommended to the House version.
Okay, I noticed there was a change in 150.2. Did you cover that?
50.2? Oh, yes, this, basically in the RESA program, 150.1 and 150.2, that we are, the governor's recommendation of 593,006, in the House version, it's broke out between the portion that is to offset, they're both austerity restorations. The one portion is the actual austerity restoration to the program, and the other part is to the contract. So in the House version, it's been broken out between the two.
Same amount of money, just break
Same
out
amount of
in.
money, yeah.
Address, if you will, just a synopsis of the mental health program, mental health contract. What exactly is, how is that handled through RESA?
I believe it. And Matt, do you want to talk about the new structure that we've got? Matt Cardoza is our director of policy, or
Okay.
Yeah, director of policy.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, Mayor.
We've restructured the contract for the last several years. We've had a contract with the National Alliance of Mental Illness. We have brought some of that in-house to where we can subcontract that out with various providers. So now we will have more control over who all the providers are rather than that one contractor that we had before. So, and it allows us to schedule those with school districts a lot quicker. We were just having some issues with scheduling and getting districts to take part in all of those.
Statewide, how does that implementation work? So, I mean, it's coming through the RESAs, but the services themselves, are they requested by the individual school?
That's right.
Or the people within the school? How exactly do people access mental health?
So we have a point person at each of the 16 RESAs that helps to schedule those. So we have it scheduled centralized, but each of the school districts within a RESA would request those particular services through their RESA. Then they would schedule those, ask those to do that through that centralized service now. So the RESAs, a large part of theirs is to market the programs, make sure that their school districts are aware of them.
Okay, and I just say this as an aside. I think it seems like every time we turn around, and I think for good reason, there's a huge focus on mental health and treatment of mental illness in the state. If you look at the correction system, is a huge issue, and I was just curious about the implementation model as it would come through RESA. Thank you. Is there any other questions on the education and youth budget? If not, thank you all so much for the job that you do. Thank you. Our last speaker is the University System of Georgia, Chancellor Teresa McCartney. Good morning, Chancellor.
I think I'm losing my hearing because earlier I really thought you called me up, so could be maybe I tried. I was not successful. So, well, appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning, and of course I have the experts behind me, so when I can't answer something, they will all jump in to my rescue. And Chairman, you tell me what maybe is the best approach. We start on page 27, section 41, and what you will see throughout all of the programs is additional funding added for our positions that are other fund sources as a system. Just high level, we have about, say, 48,000 full-time employees. Out of those 48,000, approximately 13,500 are funded through other fund sources outside of the state. And out of that 13,500, roughly 10,000 of those positions would be found within the teaching program, and the remaining 3,500 would be spread across all of the other B units. Happy to walk through each one of those programs, or would you prefer me just to keep it the high level on the salary piece?
If you would walk through any changes between the governor's budget and the House budget, and also even if they're in agreement, if you would, if it's of, you feel like in your mind it's of major significance to the operation of the university system and you'd like to expound on it or expand it, go ahead.
Absolutely. So outside of the salary changes, the first change made to the budget is found on page 34, item 277.2, and a reduction of $60,000 for a partnership with Clark Atlanta University. Those funds...
Hang on just a second. Give us a minute to get there. 277.2, okay.
As I stated, it's about a $60,000 reduction. Those funds are to support prostate research, and the reason there really was just a delay with COVID and staffing. 2 grants were provided, and so this really is truing up. Out of the $100,000, there's $60,000. Obviously, if the money stays in the budget, anything we do around prostate research is critical to the state. The next item is found on the next page under public libraries, 278.4, and Julie Walker is here if anybody would like to ask her questions. The House added $3 million to be able to fund MRR needs throughout the state on public libraries, and obviously that's a great need.
I would like to hear that because I know we've got some requests for different libraries. Where would the $3 million be going?
Julie, you want to walk up? Sure.
Good morning. Our office maintains...
If you would introduce yourself for the record.
Certainly. I'm Julie Walker, and I'm the state librarian. I work with the Georgia Public Library Service, which is a part of the University System of Georgia. Our office maintains a running list of major repair and renovation needs out in the 411 facilities, public libraries throughout the state. We constantly receive requests from libraries for everything from roofs, HVAC systems, ADA compliance issues, so we just maintain that running list. And this allocation would allow us to address most of that list and protect that investment of the state and local funds and extend the useful life of those buildings.
Okay. Any questions? Chancellor, if you would continue.
Absolutely. So the next changes you can find in the teaching program. It's on page 39, and it starts down at the bottom, 282.12, point 13, and point 14. On point 12 is what I've already referenced, the additional $41 million that's added, and that funds roughly 10,000 positions in the teaching program spread throughout the state. Additionally, the House put in $5 million for the design of the research tower at Georgia State University. This would be able to start the project, and then you would see funding in the following years for construction and equipment. And the construction state ask in future years would be about $55 million, and then in addition to that, Georgia State is putting in roughly $40 million on top of the state funding to be able to build the research tower. And then the last item is funding that was put in by the House for the design of the phase 2 of the University of North Georgia expansion. This is in the Blue Ridge area, and this would allow for them to be able to increase the enrollment up in Blue Ridge, and also to have a focus potentially around teaching and nursing to be able to meet the workforce needs.
Okay. Senator Hick.
Yeah, I just asked a general question. It seems like we're having more campuses. I guess we're evaluating these campuses to determine whether they're financially feasible and they're operating and cost per student and all that kind of stuff relative to the other campuses. But it seems like a lot of these schools are having, just like I said, more campuses.
So it really depends on the institution and the enrollment that is located within the different locations. And so even though we've been adding some satellite campuses at institutions, we've actually also have, in a sense, done the opposite, where we have gone in and closed satellite campuses. To your point, it's based on working with the institution, what programs are offered at all those other locations, and what is the enrollment. So I'll give you an example of ABAC. Back in the fall, they went in and closed 3, in a sense, other campuses. It was Moultrie, Donaldsonville, and Blakely. Another example would be Georgia Highlands, where they made the decision to move out of, my mind just went blank, Douglasville, sorry. And so it really is, it's not that we keep adding. Institutions really do look at, again, the number of students, how they're serving students, to make a determination if we can support it long term.
I guess what I'm saying, and I appreciate your answer, but I was going to in one of our earlier meetings last week, a week before that, Mr. Chairman made a comment in higher education about all these other schools coming in Georgia offering these degrees, and they also they pick up and leave and all. And I just wonder how effective we are by going to these other communities. I mean, I'm all for education. I'm all for all that kind of stuff. I just want to make sure that we're getting the biggest bang for the buck and all that.
Absolutely, we are constantly evaluating it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Give us an update. It was interesting to me. I think there's been some talk about co-location or co-use, joint use of campuses space between TCSG and university system in areas of low enrollment where we have capital facilities already built, and possibility of just maintaining one campus on a co-location basis. Tell us about where that is.
So again, it depends on the community where the campuses are located, if they have the ability to partner with our local technical college. The one that comes to mind is a partnership in Augusta around cybersecurity. And we have a facility on the river there that both Augusta University and Augusta Technical College offer courses in there. So again, it's a great partnership collaboration.
Any other questions?
And I can't leave the table without mentioning Fort Valley State University and the land grant, even though there's no change, just how critical that is to President Jones. I have to say that for the senator.
That's right.
Senator, would you like to address that? Number 12.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions?
This is for Calhoun County. This is my high school. They've been wanting one for years. So
I'm going to tell you, you have Department of Ed now figuring out if that
right.
greenhouse is in there.
That's right. I can't wait to get over there.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
We're trying to encourage Senator Sims to be a little bit more forthright about telling us how she really feels about that.
You got a district as wide and long as hers. Keep up with it.
You know, as someone from South Georgia, I thoroughly appreciate her.
She does a great job. I have to pick it. My office mate. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. I know we went through a lot quickly this morning. We've got caucus in here right now, so if there's no other questions, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you for your attendance.